Hi, this is Suzanne Somers, and you're listening to Hollywood Raw podcast. These two guys are so great, and they had me tell you things that I never thought I'd tell anybody. You better listen.
Hey guys, welcome to the Hollywood Raw YouTube page. Make sure you drop a comment, like, subscribe.
Do all the fun things.
Follow
everything. We're here to entertain you guys.
What are you waiting for? Hurry up, let's go.
Enjoy. So our guest today is an actress, an author, a businesswoman, as the queen of infomercials, who has had a role in Three's Company, Step by Step, made products like the Thighmaster, insanely popular, the one, the only Suzanne Somers. Suzanne, thanks for joining us.
Well, Suzanne, thank you for coming on the podcast. It's exciting to talk to a legend, and you are a legend. I say that respectively because you've had this amazing career in Hollywood. And I have so much I want to ask you because your career, you've been very honest about it in your books that have done insanely well. You've spoken about some of these subjects, but I just want to bring that up because I'm so curious about them. But first,
So wait, I gotta tell her right now. Adam and I have interviewed a lot of people, Suzanne, a lot of people. And I haven't heard the type of excitement out of Adam's voice getting ready for this interview today. He's just like, she's so interesting. She's had this amazing career. Like he's like fanboying out and he's trying to keep it together right now. And I love it because I know Adam very well. But
if you live long enough.
Wait, you know what's cool about you? It's like what we like to do on this podcast. We always say we like to humanize Hollywood. And the way your career has been and the way you've been so vocal about it and honest about it, we feel for you because it's interesting and it's inspiring because like the way you deal with, and we're going to get into like your business in the industry. It's like, I found it to be comforting because people use what your experiences in their own jobs and kind of talk about it. So it's wild and it's fascinating. So I want to get into all that. But first, obviously we're talking to you. Whereabouts, you live in California, whereabouts, not your exact street, what area of California do you live in?
Actually, if you want to know my exact street, the tour bus here goes by and goes, that's where Suzanne Somers lives. I go, thanks,
Wait, so they actually have it right though? Because I feel like notoriously LA has the wrong houses when they do the tours.
In LA, down here, they're right. But then I moved. So I figured it out. Anyway, I live in Palm Springs. We call it the gay 90s. You either have to be gay or 90 to live here. I bought a house here 45 years ago when I was at the height of Three's Company. And I needed to find a place so my kids could live a normal life. We lived on Venice Beach and there were paparazzi out on the beach in the morning, probably you, and on the street when we're leaving. I remember that movie Less Than Zero.
Sure.
The kids of celebrities start thinking they're celebrities and it messes with their head. I want to tell you, because you were, you call yourself a paparazzo.
I call myself a street journalist. But people can call me a paparazzi and I'm not offended because I get it, that's what they think of. But yeah, that's fine. Paparazzo. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you something interesting. When I first started Three's Company, so many years ago, I had been discovered by Johnny Carson, which I don't think many people know that. But I met him in the commissary at NBC on Wednesday. On Friday night, I was on his show because I'd written a little book of poetry called Touch Me. And I only had one credit. And the credit was the mysterious blonde Thunderbird in American Graffiti. So he didn't come on to me or anything. He just wished me luck in getting the job. I was there. And when I was booked on the Tonight Show that first time, I thought, oh my God, they must love my poetry. But I heard Johnny say, as I'm standing behind that famous curtain, we've all been wondering who the mysterious blonde in a Thunderbird from American Graffiti was. Well, we found her. And that's how I got on the Tonight Show. And then I would go on every month and read him poems. And he had an isolated camera. And he would make faces and get laughs. And he liked getting laughs. And I liked getting him to get laughs. And my little book of poetry became the #1 best-selling book of poetry in America, along with Rod McEwen. So that's how it began. And when they were putting together Three's Company, they'd actually had two other Chrissies. and they use them for pilots, and neither of them tested well. And Fred Silverman, who was the
head of ABC, right? The ABC
correct,
president. Yeah.
exactly. And he said, I got the girl. I see her on the Tonight Show all the time. So that was what happened. What I'm getting back to Paparazzi about is, so now the show's on and it immediately goes to number 2 or 3 and eventually is number 1. When I would go out to events, I would notice all the other people in my business would hate the paparazzi and stay away. And I didn't. I saw you as my lifeblood. I started learning your names. I would pick out the ones who are friendly towards me and pose for them. And because it's a dance that we do. I need you and you need me. And that's how the dance works. And I think it has a lot to do with this amazing escalation that I had early on, because I was on magazine covers and there was nothing I wasn't on or in for years, and it was all because of befriending the paparazzi, and they rarely put anything bad about me in those years because I was, doing the dance with them. So I just thought you'd appreciate that.
It is the most refreshing conversation, Suzanne, because the amount of times Adam and I talk about this and how there is that give and take, and we don't understand why there are so many celebs out there who behind the scenes call the paparazzi, ask them to show up, and then pretend that they don't want them there. And we're like, we don't get it. Like, you're talented, but to stay relevant a lot of times in between movies or in between TV shows,
between firings.
In between firings, the paparazzi will keep these people relevant and on the covers of magazines. And so it's bewildering when it's like, we don't like the paps. I don't get it. So it's really nice to hear you say that.
So nice. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I appreciate you so much. I appreciate what you said so much because it means a lot. I mean, to be honest with you, I still do it. And I see my videos and, I get the comments on YouTube, you're paparazzi, you're an idiot, you're a creep. But, we are a big part of show business. It's part of the glitz and glamour. And people like you were the people that get it, but also use it to your advantage. And, again, some of the biggest stars in the world see it like how you saw it. And look what it did for you. You're very good. And I have to say, I've actually put a camera on you once because, again, I'm based in New York City. And it was at Good Day New York. You were with your husband, but you were so sweet and you're so nice and you're so good to the fans. And now hearing you say that, I'm like, oh, now I see how you appreciate that, but also how you get it. Like you understand that part of you understand the business. And And living in Malibu, which is where I also live, TMZ's there a lot. Hey, hi. It works. It works. I do remember early on, I had done these test pictures for Playboy. It's a long story. My son had been run over by a car and I needed money for doctor's bills and all that. And I was on a photo shoot in Mexico, and the guy said, I take pictures for Playboy. And if you were chosen, you could get $15,000. And that's exactly what I owed in medical bills. So I took the test pictures, but then I got this series. And when they wanted to publish them, I said, no, it would be a really bad thing for me to do. Well, they published them anyway. And I think even that kind of worked in my favor. But I'm walking down Fifth Avenue in New York, and a truck driver goes by and he goes, "Hey, Susie, nice tits." And I went, well, you just take it all.
That's so funny. No, I think there's a lot of people that look back at, a moment in their career where maybe at that time it wasn't a shining moment. And then later on you piece it together and go, no, that one moment caused so much more of my trajectory and, something else to happen in my life to success. I mean, I got to think about that. That probably happens with a lot of celebs. Is there any other moments that you look back on, maybe even the way that you departed Three's Company and how that moment may have been brutal at the moment? However, your name was everywhere and everyone's been talking about you since.
And that was a real low point, because here I was, the #1 show, the highest demographics of any woman in television, and my contract was up. So my husband went in to renegotiate, but right before me, Laverne and Shirley had renegotiated, and they gave ABC a colonic. And so they said, we got to put an end to these women thinking they could be paid this kind of money. So all I was asking was to be paid commensurate with the men, who are all making 10 to 15 times more than me. When my husband walked in, they were already prepared to fire me. They decided I would be the sacrificial lamb. So he came home that day. Imagine, there were no cell phones at that time. It wasn't that long ago. So I'm waiting. And there's a way the front door opens when it's good news. And there's a way it opens when it's bad news. And I lived in a multi-level beach house. And I hear it open like real slow. And I hear him padding up the stairs. So I met him at the landing. He goes, "You're out." I said, "Out? It was a negotiation. You asked for this, they counter, you asked counter here. We meet in the middle." He said, they were planning on firing you. When I walked in the door, I could feel it. He took me by the shoulders and he said, "We're going to make this work for us." He said, "We're not going to work for anyone ever again unless we don't need it." And that was the way it began. The first thing was the Thighmaster. And that started by buying a pair of almost $600 Manolo Blahnik shoes that were just nude with a pointy toe and a high heel and great toe cleavage. And I'm standing in my dressing room in my bra and underpants. And I put on the shoes and I thought, oh, Alan's going to think I'm so stupid for spending so much money on shoes. So I walked out in my bra and underpants and I said, "Like my shoes?" And he said, "Great legs." And that radio voice he has. And that became the commercial. Started on those shoes, which I was able to write off. And then the camera worked up my leg and we stopped counting after selling 10 million of them. And now we're entrepreneurs. Now we realize the value of what Three's Company really was for me. Everybody knew my name, not only in this country, but in many parts of the world. And that was like, that's worth more than you can express. And so that's been the way I've reinvented all along. You know, we always learn, our careers are high and low and high and low. You don't learn anything when you're high because it's all good and you're having fun and you're busy working. When you're low, most people get despondent and give up. I found the low parts are when you can really think it through. Oh, where could I go next? And never did I imagine that I would write 27 books, 14 New York Times bestsellers. Oh, I just lost you. There you are. There you are. And being a spokeswoman for women, turning on women and men to hormone replacement. I don't know why, but I understand how the body works. And I used my name to get to the best and brightest. So I called up this guy at MIT. His name is Ray Kurzweil. He's a famed futurist. In fact, Bill Gates said, Ray Kurzweil is the smartest man on the planet. So how do you get to him? I call him MIT. May I speak to Ray Kurzweil? Who's calling? Suzanne Somers. I got, junketed along. And all of a sudden, Mr. Kurzweil's office, yes, it's Suzanne Somers for Ray Kurzweil. What is this concerning? I said, I'd like to speak to him about being the most fascinating man on the planet. Mm-hmm. Hi, Suzanne. And through him, I learned, he's the first one who talked about artificial intelligence. He's the first one who talked about nanobots and where artificial intelligence could be going, which is kind of scary right now. I read those books that Elon Musk said you should read about AI, and I'm very curious, and I like the way I'm aging. I've embraced aging. I have a book I'll shamelessly plug called A New Way to Age. Mm-hmm. And it dawned on me when I wrote this book this year that aging is about worn out parts. And if you had a Maserati, you would never put inferior fuel into your Maserati. And anytime you heard a little clink or a dunk or something, you'd bring it to the mechanic. And yet we don't do that with our own bodies. And we put just crap in our bodies, not high quality fuel. And so that's opened a whole new arena for me, which makes my age be my asset, because you can't lie about your age anymore. While you're looking at me, you could be Googling how old is Suzanne Somers, and probably already did. Did you?
Well, we did for the interview, though. That was just research, pure research, because I literally was telling Anna, I'm like, I don't understand how this woman doesn't age. Like, it doesn't make sense. But I do know that all of your businesses have like kind of like flowed into one another. What I wanted to ask you, because you brought up the Thighmaster, is that a product that is still for sale out there? Like, do you still sell them?
Yeah,
Really?
Thighmaster and the Buttmaster. And I use the Thighmaster every day of my life. I do 50 in the morning, 50 mid-afternoon, and 50 while I'm lying in bed at night. And I could crack walnuts with my thighs.
I love that.
If you you don't have to put a lot of energy into aging well. I feed myself perfectly. It's all organic. I don't eat a lot of sugar. Every once in a while, ice cream, I can't resist. I have one tequila every night. It's a stiff one at 5 o'clock. I love it. It's my date with my husband. I love it. And I drink clear tequila because there's little to no sugar, so I don't gain any weight from it. And by putting back the hormones I've lost in the aging process by lab work, what I need is different from the next person needs. I'm aging different than people my age. You wrinkle less. You keep your sex drive if you're hormonally balanced. You can sleep. Most women my age can't sleep. You're in a good mood all the time because everything's balanced. The body wants balance and it wants alignment. And then every Tuesday I tell my husband, okay, lie down. And I take the injection of testosterone, pull his pants down and give him a shot in the side of his hip. And Wednesday, don't call us.
Your guys are it's still at your age and his age because of the testosterone. You guys are still sexually active per se.
Yeah.
From that.
Well, men don't like to go near the concept of testosterone because it feels like maybe you're having difficulty with what's most important. That's the last thing to go. Testosterone builds bone and muscle. The heart has more testosterone receptor sites than any other muscle in the body. That's your pumping power. So if you start declining in testosterone, your heart starts declining. Now think of older men. They run out of gas. And that's because their hearts working slow and so hard. And so I lecture about all of this, which is a career I never thought I would have. That I really like. I lectured in Toronto before the pandemic. Everything is BP or AP. And we're driving to this center in the middle of Toronto. I can't remember I think it's the Taylor Center, big arena. And I was expecting, a few hundred to 1,000 people. But I saw all these women arm in arm walking towards the arena, and I wondered what else was going on there. When I walked out, there were 9,000 people. That means people are starving for clarification for something that the doctors never studied in medical school. They didn't teach it.
Yeah.
So here I am in a new arena. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I have the ability to get to the best and the brightest. And I've used my fame for the better good for me and for the better good for all who are there.
You've been, I commend you because you talk the talk. You've been very active about this before it was trendy, before it was cool, before it was on social media. You've been pushing that, through your network. And it's been, obviously the Thighmaster was revolutionary as a product, obviously as a business technique, the sales of it, because you were big in the infomercial when those were very, very big. When it comes to, so do you do stem cell? Is it stem cell pretty much what you're doing, or are you doing stem cell?
Well, I had breast cancer 25 years ago, and I didn't have any reconstruction. And then I think, what book was it? I think that when I wrote the book Knockout, Doctors Who Were Curing Cancer Without Drugs, I heard about banking your own stem cells, not taking umbilical cord or anybody. I don't know enough about what's going on in Panama and everything yet to feel comfortable with that, but probably. I just recently heard Mel Gibson talk about his father. He took him to Panama, and his father's, come back to life at 92. But they took some fat from my stomach, woohoo, and injected my stem cells in it. Then took my breast that had part of it removed and pumped that in there with my stem cells, and I regrew my breast. It's just a remarkable thing. And so the doctor that I did this with, we were then invited on Dr. Oz's show, and he did an avatar because I didn't want them to show my naked body in surgery, but he did this amazing avatar. And you could see exactly what they did and how they injected it. So there's a lot of new stuff happening. And I find, I thought when I'm 75, and I thought when I was 75, I'd be old, but I'm not. I'm chronologically old, but I'm not old. And if anything, my brain is working better than it ever has. And it's exciting about like, wow, where's it going to take me next? Thank you, Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
Thank you, The Tonight Show. Thank you, Paparazzi. I see everything as an opportunity, even being fired from that show, which was so devastating. And people always say, oh, when you left the show, I always go, I did not leave the show. I was asked to leave. There's a difference. I make no money, no residuals. When you see all the what is it on, not Hulu, it's the other one. Wait a second,
you don't make any
Nothing.
Residuals from Three's
Nothing.
Company? How is that even possible?
That's why I was renegotiating. My contract, I was so naive when I signed on that, okay, you don't even have to pay me. But by year 6, when I'd been on every year, at least 55 national magazine covers, featured on 60 Minutes, Barbara Walters, 2020, all the big shows. I earned my status. And that was part of the negotiation. I want to be paid for residuals. I want to be paid in perpetuity as long as you're using it. And I want to be paid a salary each week, commensurate with the men. So I got nothing. You know what? I'm okay. I watch the Three's Company reruns and I laugh. I think she's darling. I think I played the greatest dumb blonde because she didn't irritate you. You just want to take care of her. And I thought about that a lot. I thought, wow, how do I make her likable and lovable? I gave her a moral code. The audience started knowing what she would do and what she wouldn't do. And that's when you own an audience. When they laugh before you do it, as a comedian, wow, that's like gold. You feel, got him. So I look at it and I think I needed Three's Company to be the main stepping stone to everything that I'm doing today. So I don't resent anybody, or I don't have anger. I
think it's just more. I think it's more shocking, and I think it says a lot about the industry as a whole. Of taking advantage of a young woman coming into the industry, and how far we can push her and use her, and then spit her out. And at the end of the day, you, just like all these other actresses and actors on TV, should be getting residuals because your face is showing up to this day still on TV. Do you feel your success post Three's Company with Thighmaster and books, do you feel like that is the biggest kind of FU back to them? Like, look, I didn't actually need you. Thank you for my springboard, but I didn't need you.
I needed the show. I needed the fame I garnered from that show. I needed to create that character that made people miss her.
Yeah.
Because people still say to me today, oh, I never watched it after you left. And, oh, I always missed you. And when I started performing in nightclubs in Vegas, I would bring Chrissy Snow to life on stage. And at one point, the Three's Company producers, such small-minded, they sent a cease and desist. I wasn't allowed to do their character on stage. And that's when I said, fuck you. And I did it every night. And when I'd bring her to life, and we had this song, and in front of them, I'd put the 2 ponytails, and I'd, change the posture and turn into her. The audience, you'd hear audible, oh, like that. So she was important to me. I talked about her like she's a person, but actually she kind of was over there.
She was a person. Everyone related to her. So she was a person in a lot of people's mind.
I grew up, I wrote 3 books about being a child of an alcoholic. I had a violent alcoholic father. We spent many, many, many nights hiding in a locked closet where, you grow up like that and you think it's normal. And my father used to have this mantra. See, alcoholics are bullies, and they've got to bully you so that you'll stay with them, because if you leave them, they won't be able to survive. So he used to say to me, you're stupid, you're hopeless, you're worthless, you're nothing. you're a big O, and he'd put his finger like that. And it was said to me so many times that I bought it, that I just thought I was stupid and hopeless and worthless. When my son was run over by a car at 5 years old, I was a single, I had him when I was 18. Awful, awful. I felt so guilty, and I let him play on that scooter board in the driveway, and I shouldn't have, and everything. He had terrible nightmares after he finally recovered. And he'd wake up in the middle of the night crying and shaking, reliving the accident. So I took him to the community mental health center, where they charge you according to your ability to pay. And after a year, she said to me, he's fine now. He's not having the nightmares. You've been a good mother. I needed to hear that. And she said, he doesn't need to come anymore, but you, I'd like you to stay. I said, me, why? She said, you have the lowest self-esteem of anyone I've ever met. She said, do you realize you apologize when you walk in for who you are, what you look like? When did you get the feeling you were worth so little? She asked me that question for 3 years, until one day when she said, when did you get the feeling you were worth so little? I said, I don't know. I just always thought I was stupid and hopeless and worthless and nothing and a big O. And she said, who told you that? And at that moment, I pieced it all together, that it wasn't my fault and that I wasn't stupid and hopeless. And that's when my life really began. I left her office realizing that I had so much that had been wiped away by somebody else imposing that on me. So one of the great things about being a child of an alcoholic was I didn't drink alcoholically. My brother did. My younger brother died of it. My sister was an alcoholic. They've all been, my sister and brother have been recovering for about 40 years now. I wrote that book, Keeping Secrets, New York Times bestseller, 16 weeks, became a movie. My father allowed me to write it. He was sober then, after 50 years. And he apologized to me. You know, there's nothing more healing, nothing in any walk of life than a true heartfelt apology. And I forgave him. I have not one bad feeling left. And I try to live my life just in gratitude, just thinking the good things and having my cocktail every night at 5 o'clock. And I have a bit of a body sense of humor, and I love my husband, I love my life, and I love my work.
There's a lot to be said about just forgiveness in general. And once you forgive people and you don't have that weighing down on you, you like live that free life.
Yeah, it's a gift you give yourself. The pandemic, so the accident worked for us, for both of us, because he loved his therapy. My father worked for me. I became toughened up by him, and I got what I call the all show use. And being fired helped me. This pandemic even worked in my favor because we couldn't work, could we? And I figured out, my husband and I, we were a team, a real team. We started doing these Facebook Live Instagram shows 3 times a week. Now I have 25 million books in print around the world. I have people that come to those shows from all over this country, all over the world. And the lure is, nobody likes to drink alone, but if you could have a tequila with Suzanne and Alan, that's kind of fun. So we all give a toast to the tequila. And it's amazing. I don't have my own brand of tequila, but everybody's was already into that. And I talk about all my organic products and hormones and things that, like what we're talking about now. My husband is behind the camera, and he's the bad boy. And they love our relationship. They'd love to have their own kind of relationship like that. So you find new things to sell as you move along. And who would have thought? And then I listened to them. And what I kept hearing was, I'm so bloated. I'm constipated. I've got gas all the time. I'm dog tired. My hair is stringy. I don't feel like sex. And so what I realized, they all have gut problems. And I just happened to have written this book called Toxic, about what chemicals have done to our bodies, and in particular, our guts. And our GI tract is the length of a tennis court, and around that barrier wall is mucus, and that's your immune system. I mean, it's real simple, but nobody ever explains it in simple terms. So when you put chemicals on your skin, when you eat chemicals, they spray poison on our food. Who thought that was a good idea? Or household cleaning products that are poisonous. It gets in your GI tract, eats through that barrier wall and that mucus, which is your immune system. So now you've degraded your immune system, and now you've got leaky gut, and it leaks out into your bloodstream and goes on a wild rampage to your major organs and glands, the brain being the one they want the most. And so the more chemicals you take in, the more it gets in the brain, and the hypothalamus and the pituitary have to shrink. And then the more chemicals get in from your, McDonald's dinner, and the hypothalamus shrinks some more. I envision the brain up there going, there's hardly any room left up here for me. And we came up with a product, I bet you're surprised, called Gut Renew. It is, I know, I'm shameless. I'm so sorry. But
This
We
is
got
turned
the
into an
infomercial going. I love
I
it.
didn't even know
know.
how bad this podcast turned to an infomercial. I was like, oh my God. I was just like, what just happened?
I won't hold up very long, but I have to tell you that stuff is so successful. We're ordering it in lots of 70 tons at a time.
Jeez.
So that's all I'll say. I won't, the people watching this will go, I have a bad gut. Maybe they'll get it too.
Hey, Suzanne, you mentioned Alan and how you guys were doing these live streams and talking about life and sex and all that kinds. Does Alan, your husband, ever look at you and go, Suzanne, you're oversharing. Please stop talking about our sex life to a bunch of people that you do not know?
Never. He's worse than me. When you tell people the truth, it's mesmerizing. And now that I'm doing shows like yours, where there's more freedom to talk about things that standards and practices wouldn't let you talk about on network TV, I love this form. I've been asked to go back on TV several times, and nothing so far that's been presented to me intrigues me. I'm liking this one-on-one. I like talking to you, and I like talking to both of you. And, I don't talk about sex for the sake of, and then he does this and then I do that. It's not that. What I talk about is that I'm not expected to have a sex drive at this age, nor is he. And yet, because we're both juiced up on hormones, you're in the mood, just like when you're young. It's like getting something back. And that's what I pass on, not the specifics. Believe me, I'm not into, last night I hung.
Okay, but maybe he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't. But does your son go, oh God, guys, not again?
Yes. Yes. My son's going, oh, my mother. Yeah.
Because I can see your husband's like, all right, high five, let's do this. And then your son's like, oh my God, Mom, please.
But I got to ask you, and this sounds just crazy and ridiculous, but like, you've been doing this for a while. As you got older, how do you make it more interesting? Because yes, okay, you got the hormones in you, you're having sex, but how do you still make it mentally exciting? Like, what do you guys do?
Think about your most active time in your life. Maybe it's right now. You're always in the mood, weren't you? Because the juice was flowing. And what I'm doing is I call them the juice of youth, hormones, putting the juice back. So I'm kind of hormonally where I was at my most active. So it's not like thinking up different positions or anything. And I'm really in love with him. And so it's either love making or let's just have some raucous fun tonight.
Like, is it kinky? Or like, are you guys?
No. We've been together 54 years. He's looking over at me like, no. Oh, yeah. When I did the devil suit, when I was doing Step by Step, the writers were always really Step by Step was about Patrick W. Frank and me, Carol, trying to get laid. And so they would set up these weekends for Frank and Carol, and they'd have him dress up in a devil suit and me in a nurse's outfit. And I said to them, people don't do this. It's too much work. But it's great to be alive while you're alive. Yeah. That's essentially what I'm saying.
I get it. That's cool.
I love the honesty, Suzanne. Honestly, I like you had mentioned, I think there's a lot people gravitate towards honesty. And I think, the more in depth and stuff that you're giving details about to people, it makes you even more likable. You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Yeah.
Human, likable. And I think that's why people have gravitated for so long. You know what I'm saying? Like you've had fans your whole life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that can come and go from being in the spotlight.
And Dax, not also just fans, by the way. People like you're still their crush.
Yeah.
You know, but go on.
Isn't
Dax,
that wonderful? I love that.
No,
yeah, you can, you know, this whole Me Too movement, everything. I always think to women, be careful. You know, there's a dance between men and women, or women and women and men or men, whatever your like is. There's a dance. Don't take away the opportunity to dance, because it's fun to catch one another's eye and have a glint in your eye. It's part of being human.
Absolutely. Now, you know, I had kind of got onto the Thighmaster talk. Then we derailed a little bit. How successful has that product been?
Like,
because
actually,
like
was that
I
the
feel
most
like
profitable thing that you've done too?
It's not.
No, is it? I was curious.
Well, like I said, we stopped counting after we sold 10 million of them, but they continue to sell and sell and sell. It's certainly one of the most profitable. This Gut Renew, honestly, is almost as profitable. When you're ordering things in lots of 70 tons, that's a lot of bags.
How much do you think the Thighmaster alone, though? Because you have so many businesses, but how much do you think the Thighmaster alone has put into your pocket over the last, 30 years?
Well, I grew up poor, and I live a good life. And can you answer that question, Ellen? He wants to know how much money we've made.
I'm just on the Thighmaster, not on everything. No, I don't want to know everything. I'm just curious on that one product because it is so famous and so popular.
Well, it's 1995 times 10 million. So kind of do the math, you know, and we're probably at 15 million now.
Wow.
I know. All because of a pair of Manolo Blahnik shoes.
And do you own that outright? Like
outright,
the patent, everything?
We had partners 50-50, and they got drunk on money when it all started selling, and they overspent to the point where they could no longer afford to be in their side of the business. So we bought them out. We have 100%.
You know how much 1995 times 15 million is?
I don't. Did you just do it?
I just did it. It's a lot of zeros. It's 299,250,000.
Yeah, but I spent a lot. You should see my.
I honestly, I commend you.
I think it's awesome. I think it's
the whole
inspiring.
Thing.
Anybody can do it. You know, you can't. People are always calling me and wanting to know, you know, how do I do this? I go, you can't decide to make money. You have to have a passion about whatever you're selling, and you have to, it has to be a fit. You know, like I can't sell baseball bats, you know, but I wanted to keep my legs looking great for those Manolo Blahnik shoes. So there was a weird but kind of strange passion there. And then all the other things that we sell now, I have a passion about. I don't want to put chemicals on my skin. I don't want my brain over there shrinking. I want to keep my brain. And for someone who played the dumbest blonde on television, I have a really good brain.
You know who else has played that role pretty well? Paris Hilton. There is a public persona. She is brilliant.
Brilliant. I was in fact, when we were talking, I was going to say like Paris Hilton. I was going to bring her up.
Or Jessica Simpson.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to Paris Hilton because I know more about her. I learned from her, don't go out of the house not camera ready. And when she said that one day, and I went, you know, you're right. Why let people catch you looking like crap? And then I watched the way she recognized what she had. She was an heiress. Now, when you're the great granddaughter, and there's a lot of children in the Hilton family of Baron Hilton, by the time it trickles down to you, there's not that much, you know, she's not going to miss a meal. But she played the heiress card and dressed the part and recognized that she's a true beauty And she has sold her beauty in a way that doesn't piss you off. She goes to a lot of work to take all these gorgeous pictures. And then she took that beauty and was a disc jockey, and not in the way that, I knew from radio, but, audiences of 1 million people. And she's up there doing that thing. I think she's played this perfect, and nobody could do it like her, because it's true to who she is. And that's why you and I respect her, because she honed in on who she was. Not many people know who they are.
I just love that Suzanne Somers said she learned something from Paris Hilton.
For sure.
Because I feel like Paris would look at you and be like, no, I learned how to do stuff from Suzanne Somers.
Well, if you ever interview her, ask her. I'd like to know.
We will
Yeah.
absolutely ask her.
Yeah.
She'll say, that's hot.
What's next for you? Like, here's the thing, like, you've done so much. Do you still want to like continue? Like, if you had to pick, do you want to stay in the business lane? I know they both kind of go both, but do you want to get more, still like act more, or what are you passionate about now?
Dude, acting pays nothing compared to all of her other ventures. Like at that point, that's just if she wants to do it for fun.
And if I want to do it for fun, if there was some, I had one suggested, but it was shot down. I would do a form of Three's Company again, because I felt that I didn't finish that. It'd be like what Chrissy Snow would now be more like Edith Bunker, and presume that Chrissy Snow and Jack Tripper got married, and they had a son, and the son was Jason Ritter, and we could bring back Jack Tripper in hologram now. And I thought it could be a very interesting idea, because Jason is talented, but he didn't want anything to do anything that has to do with his father. And I thought, you might rethink that, but he was adamant about that. So that was interesting to me. I told Alan, I'm 75, as I said, I want to go back to Vegas for my 80th birthday and play off and on in my 80s. I remember when I was working there full time that Debbie Reynolds was 80 over another hotel. And what's interesting about performing live, it's one of my favorite things to do, because there's no net. And the show I most admired was Sinatra. When I was in Vegas and he was there, I'd always try to wiggle a night where I wasn't working. I could go see his show. I love that he walked out with a drink. I love that he just talked to us like you and I are talking, no script, and then go from song to song. And so the most recent residency I had was at the Westgate, which was the Hilton. I had been at the Hilton in the 80s, starring in the Moulin Rouge. And then this was my own room at the Westgate. God, I loved it. And I did my version of Sinatra. I had a 7-piece band, just the 7 coolest guys, and the alto sax, which I love. And I sang my kind of music. Got to be true to yourself. I'm not going to do rap. You imagine me out there going do ba do ba do ba.
Is that your rap?
Yeah, that's my rap. So I failed already. But I sang what I like to sing. I flirted with the audience. I talked to the audience. When I walked out, I got so good at feeling them. I could tell what I needed to do to bring them up. And if they were already up, how to bring them higher. I would always pull a guy out of the audience and sing to him and get him to dance with me. And it was a real crowd pleaser. And I got as close to being great at performing as I had been in the whole 20 years, because it was the first time I went completely without a net, without a script. And where we put that act together? Sitting at our bar. We have a bar in our house called Big Al's Bar. And I would sing to Alan while we're having our tequila. And I'd say, I could talk about this or that there. So it kind of had a point A to point B to go to. Best reviews I ever got. The reviews all said a similar thing, like Vegas is back, the old kind of style of Vegas, because everybody's doing those shows where they fly through the air and it's all Cirque du Soleil, which is great. It's just not me. The greatest show in Vegas right now is Lady Gaga. The greatest. She
Did you go
is.
See her?
Oh, twice. And I'm going to go.
You went to see Lady Gaga in Vegas?
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's going to be there this month. I'm going to go again. Her tickets are like $2,500 a piece. It's just, but I'm going to go because I just like.
Do you go backstage to like hang out and meet her or
I
anything?
haven't yet. If I go this time, I probably will. I was taken aback by her, that so unique. Again, someone who is true to who they are. She knows who she is. And when she did all that with Tony Bennett, it brought something else out in her. And now she's got 2 shows, one where she flies through the air. That's good. She's real good. But I love her jazz act. Her jazz act has balls, and she has balls.
I love it. I love thinking about you there. Are you standing up and dancing the whole time to Lady Gaga?
Or just leaning back and just
taking it all in.
Yeah. When I'm on stage, I never ask anything of my audience. I never ask my audience to do this or stand up. Just whatever the mood takes, whatever.
Suzanne, who else would we be surprised that you're a big fan of?
I don't know.
I'm going to be honest. I didn't anticipate Lady Gaga. You going to see multiple shows. I didn't anticipate that. Who else do you go and watch?
I love unique talent. So God, you can't imagine what it was like to sit opposite Johnny Carson. You can't imagine. He heard what you didn't say. He made you funny. That was great. And the other audience that I have loved is entertaining the U.S. military. I did U.S. shows all over. And I remember walking out at Ramstein Air Force Base with 50,000 soldiers. And I brought with me a line of Hollywood girl dancers. But I walked out by myself and they're screaming, screaming, screaming. And I looked at them and I said, and the nuns in Catholic school said I'd never get to heaven.
I'm curious, like you're a great speaker and all. Like I'm hearing you talk right now. I'm like, man, your one man show seems amazing. But do you still get nervous like when you go out and you have to do interviews? Does that, like, what's your mindset, or is that just normal to you?
I used to. I don't now. Now I can't wait. I'm like a fighter going out into the ring. I finally know who I am, and I like who I am. I'm not apologetic for who I am. I like how my face is aging. I've done very little Botox, and I mean a little. I'm at a great place in my life. I'm the happiest I've ever been. I value love in my life. You know, I was in the hospital 10 years ago. I was poisoned, and I believe I know who did it. When my books on hormones came out, bioidentical hormones, which I wrote about, are not prescription. You have to have them prescribed by your doctor, but they're not considered pharmaceutical drugs. What they had for women my age was pharmaceutical synthetic hormones. And the Women's Health Initiative had done a 10-year study, which they stopped after 2 years, paraphrasing. Women should take nothing at all rather than take these dangerous, harmful, and even fatal so-called hormones. So I know I had something to do with this. That drug that most women were automatically given at 50 years old or 45 years old dropped a $20 billion a year drug, dropped by 20%. I mean, I know I'm wrong, by 72%. I don't know. I was in a bar one night after my shopping shows in Canada. I don't know. Somebody put something in my drink. I know who was in the bar that night.
I was gonna say, what kind of poison is this then? What is
So
it like a?
I went into anaphylactic shock. I became so cold. I didn't know the human body could be that cold. We're flying private, so we flew home. When I got to Palm Springs, I called one of the doctors that I interviewed in my books, and he said, "Stop! You're in danger. Get to the hospital right now." I go to ER, and by the time I get to ER, I can't breathe. Anaphylactic shock. You can't breathe. And the ER doc came out in a wheelchair. "Why can't you breathe? Why can't you breathe?" And I'm going, "I don't know." So they they put me on Ativan, they put me on oxygen and got me breathing. And then they did a CAT scan, and the doctor came in and he said, I brought the nurse in with me because I hate what I have to say. And I said, what? And he said, you have cancer. I've never seen so much cancer in a human body, because I had rash all over my body and in my ears and my nose, everything. And what it turned out, they were so wrong, but the scare that I had was so terrible. It turned out that I had been given something that I had never heard of called succinylcholine. Succinylcholine is given in surgery. If overdosed, you go into anaphylactic shock, your body breaks out in a rash, your extremities swell. On a CAT scan, it reads all the swelling on your body and the marks on your body read like tumors inside your body. And that's what they thought was cancer. And
now, do you feel like you were targeted? Because that seems like a really strange drug for someone to have in a bar. I mean, this is not like a date rape drug or something. Like, this is going to kill someone. So do you feel that you were targeted?
I do, but I can't prove who did it. So I've never made a big deal out of it. I wrote about it in my book, Knockout, Doctors Who Are Curing Cancer Without Drugs. And I talked about it with Larry King, who was so good to me over the years. I think the reason I had so many bestsellers was he would give me an hour of global time. How valuable is that? Yeah.
We had such a wonderful conversation with him. I mean, Adam was, we had to have had one of his last interviews.
Yeah,
and it was
such
such a wonderful conversation. And I mean, talk about a legend. You know, that we were so fortunate to have that time with him. And then he,
and look at how he presented himself. He had a costume, the suspenders, the shirt, the pants, the voice, and we'll be right back. Or I'd say something, he goes, that's a grabber. And he was this character. And we take characters that are unique and authentic. And he was unique and authentic.
Yep.
When you were coming up in Hollywood, you know, obviously you're an attractive actress, you know, I'm curious during that time, how crazy was, and I'm not saying you, but that you saw from your colleagues and peers, that like the people who weren't around, like if they could understand how crazy was it going on with the casting couch situation where, you know, basically to get a role, you had to sleep with a director or a casting agent or somewhat.
The my route was different because as a teenage mother, I had to make a living. You know how I made a living? I was an extra in movies in San Francisco. And then I fell in love with Alan Hamel. And the reason I went to Hollywood is because I just wanted to be with Alan Hamel. I didn't have stars in my eyes. My biggest goal was, and I tried out for it right before I left for Los Angeles, I wanted to be a weather girl because they made $300 a week and I could live a really nice life on $300 a week. And I auditioned for weather girl at KGO TV in San Francisco. And when I got to Los Angeles, ironically, I got the call that I had gotten the job as a weather girl, and I had to turn it down because I had started a new life. I didn't know where I was going to go. But because I was so in love with Alan Hamel, I didn't, not that women put out vibes, but I just didn't put out any vibes. I did not, other than one guy who did some movies called Billy Jack. He tried to, let's do the rape scene. There was that, but nothing happened. I really didn't experience, I'm so glad. Alan, I don't know if you've ever met him, but he's protective, really protective. You wouldn't mess around with him. And I think people knew that.
I think there's a reason that you guys have had such a successful marriage for so long, right? Like that, you know, it's funny in Hollywood, I feel like marriages come and go so quickly, and to see one that has lasted this long, I mean, huge kudos to both of you. And kudos to sharing your experience with people so that a lot of people out there can also go, okay, what is their key to success? Because I would like that. Suzanne, I know we're running out of time. I can't believe how fast time has flown today. It really has. You're an amazing interview. I do want to ask you, what is your advice to someone like on just aging in general? Because I feel that you don't look at age as a negative. And I feel that age has become such a negative in the public. And I want to say, you know, with someone who is headed towards 40, what would your advice to me be? Because I feel that as I get over, I'm nervous about it, but you make it look so easy. What's your advice?
First of all, you're going to love being 40. With each decade, you get wiser. Wisdom is the gift. Wisdom is one thing that no young person can buy or have. Now in my 7th decade, if I'm 75, am I in my 7th decade or my 8th? I never know how that works. Math is not my thing.
I would say 7th, right?
Yeah, I think 7th.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know how the body works. I don't know how math works. That's why I've got Alan Hamel. And look at it differently. It's no longer frail and decrepit and out of it, unless those are the choices you make. The earlier you start making good choices about your life and your thoughts, the brain believes everything you tell it. So if you tell the brain you want success, you want to be happy, you see it. Like I didn't realize this when I would hide in that closet to escape. I would, in my mind's eye, put myself on a big stage, and I was a big star, even though I never was planning on doing that. But that's what I was seeing. And I'd always have my mother in the front row, and she was finally proud and happy. And that happened. One night I was on stage at the MGM Grand Hotel in Las Vegas, and down in the front row was my mother, so proud and happy. I thought, man, we can manifest anything, even if we're not in total belief at the time when we're manifesting it. So see yourself. What is the grandest version of the greatest vision of yourself that you could possibly have? See it and do the work along the way. See it as it's already done and do the work along the way. And the older you get, rather than being less available, unless your goal is to be the most beautiful woman or man on the planet, you're going to lose some of that. But I find what I'm getting, what I may not have from when I was young, there's something, I don't know, I can still light up a room, and I think that's my essence, and I believe in myself and like myself. So with each chapter, believe in yourself, like yourself, see yourself where you want to be ultimately, and never cap it.
Awesome. I love that advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Adam, you got a last question for her before we got to let her go?
Yeah. Before we let her, my last question for you is there any role that you turned down that you regret that turned into a huge thing?
Yes. Michael Eisner he was at Paramount at that time. And he offered me that movie that Bette Midler ultimately, do you remember the name of that movie, Alan? Bette Midler starred in Fatal Attraction. No, not. It was some big, huge movie.
I'll look it up. Let's see. Bette Midler. Bette
Midler, 70s. I had a manager at the time, and Michael Eisner was offering me $250,000 for it. And my manager, Jay Birdstein, at that time said, "You're not going to work for $250,000." I'm thinking, I would.
All right, so here's what year was that you said?
In the 70s. Outrageous Fortune? Is that it?
She's got so many movies. Oh my God.
I know.
I see 87. I'm trying to find movies in that era. 99, 1970, The Hawaiians.
No.
Bette Midler, All Red. I can't read what the rest of that one is.
No. Is there Outrageous Fortune there? Do you see that? Kind of that's sticky in my craw here. Roses? War of the Roses? No, that was that other girl.
I'm not seeing that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of stuff in the 80s. Not
if
so
you
much
see
in
it,
the 70s.
get to me and I'll tell you if that's the one or not. But anyway, it got turned down, and then it turned into this huge movie, and I think she won an Oscar for it.
The Rose?
No. No. I would not have turned down The Rose. I would have done it for free. I'm a cheap date.
Awesome.
Seriously, thank you. And honestly, the kind words you said in the beginning, just about the paparazzi, to hear from your side, from someone who I respect and admire, to hear like how you looked at it, because a lot of people, they're starting to have like a better perspective of it. But, you know, unfortunately, you know, I get messages all the time calling me trash. I'm like, guys, like we work together. So
Can I tell you one thing about befriending paparazzi? During the 70s and 80s, there was a photographer, his name was Ron Galella. He came to fame because of Jackie Kennedy. She said, you know, everywhere I go, he's following me and he's making my life miserable. And she sued him. But when I met Ron Galella on the paparazzi red carpet, I made friends with him. So when my house burned down, I lost everything. I lost everything, all the letters that I'd gotten from presidents and major celebrities. And I lost all my photos. And Ron Galella sent me every single photo he ever took of me. And I got them all back. And it was just the most incredible gesture.
That is such a
That's
wonderful story,
incredible.
because I feel that paparazzi gets such a bad name so often in the media. And to hear that someone went out of their way to help you in a time that obviously was a really rough time in your life, I think that's a really cool story. So thank you for sharing that
Thanks.
with us.
Thanks.
Suzanne, I appreciate your time so much. Like you over delivered, because I knew you'd be a great guest, and you exceeded my expectations. And
Thank
it's
you.
also hearing what you have to say, your story. It's inspiring, and I appreciate our audience for listening to hear your story, because I haven't heard your story like this. So it's so crazy and inspiring, just from a business end to a showbiz end to a personal end. It's amazing. And if you want to see more about Suzanne Somers, you got to go to her Instagram, SuzanneSomers.com. If you like her products, awesome.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 4:00. Have a drink with me.
Love it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay. Thank you. You were both excellent. I really enjoyed it.
I love that. I mean, I love her candor, and I love like her stories. We did sell a lot of product for her, I believe, during this podcast.
Yeah.
But she was wonderful.
She's dude, I don't think she gets the respect, or at least it's in my head, because what she's done in the acting world and also the business world, I don't know if she even gets the respect that she even does, because I admire her so much more now. You know, I never really knew her story. I knew her story. I thought I knew her story. Then when I actually heard her, like, and felt her tell her story, it's like, man, this girl's a queen. Are you kidding me?
And crazy successful. I didn't realize how successful her and Alan were. Like, you know, it's like the Thighmaster, I feel like, was a joke for a very long time, just because it was like this beautiful woman hawking this like Thighmaster. And like, we literally had one of those at my house when I was young.
Sure,
like, I
everyone
remember everyone had. But to think how successful that has been, plus all of her other endeavors, like TV essentially was nothing. The fact she doesn't give it residuals from Three's Company, like that to me is wild.
I mean, that shows you where the money is. But she looked at as a launching thing for her career. You know, like, I think everything led to the next moment. Like, you know, so it's just launching to the next gig, and it's wild. And again, I say it's very inspiring. People like her, like, now I look at her sort of like I looked at Joan Rivers in a way, because I found Joan Rivers to be very entrepreneurial in everything she did, and she was very honest with everything she did. And again, Suzanne Somers wasn't a comedian, but she was very honest with her contracts and everything that was going on in the business end, and she was revolutionary, to some extent. And again, to hear her say her story is wild. And I know you got an erection during the interview, which was wild.
It was at one point I had to tuck it under my belt. And I was like, you know what? That's sometimes you just got to do that, dude.
You freak. But guys, thank you guys for listening to the podcast. We have a video portion of this on YouTube. Check us out on TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. We're on it all. If you like celebrity content, we have content that you cannot find anywhere else. Like, if you miss the old school paparazzi videos, we have those videos. You can't find them anywhere else. Check our TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, where you can find these videos. We search the agency websites and get the best videos of the day,
Hollywood
and we get it
Raw
up quick and fast.
Just follow us on every single platform.
Yes.
And if you get a chance, what we could really use is you to go to Apple or iTunes, search out Hollywood Raw, scroll down to the bottom of our show page and leave us a review, 5 stars with a review. And, we try to shout everyone out at the beginning of the show. It's just a little thank you for taking that extra 4 seconds out of your day to leave us a review. It really means a lot to us.
It's the best thing you do to support us is leave a review. And if you're into it, if you want to send feet pics to Dax, he's down for that, male or female. He's cool with it. Thank you guys for listening. Find me at Adam Glyn. Find Dax Holt at DAXHOLT. We'll see you guys next time.
Guys, hope you liked that video. We got a lot more where that came from.
Hit that bell, like, subscribe, share with a friend. The best thing you do to support us is really doing that. And we really need the money because we need hair gel.